What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. So the Six Nations is coming up very, very soon. The teams are being announced this week at some point, depending on when I get this video edited. They may already be out, but I thought, like we did last year, it would be a lot of fun to go through and do the predictions for the Six Nations before I actually get to see the teams, before I get to sit down and look at the teams. So basically in this sort of video, we go through the odds of what team each has currently going into the Six Nations, and then we'll have a little run through of every single game that's going to be going on in the Six Nations, going through each week and basically predicting a winner. And then at the end of the tournament, we get to see how many we think we got correct or how many we actually did get correct. And then finally, I will put together a bit of a table as to what I think the actual final table for the Six Nations will look like. And then when we get round to actually finishing the Six Nations, we get to go back, have a look at this video and find out just how wrong I actually am overall. So what I'll do, so you guys don't have to see my face the whole time, basically we'll put a bunch of tiles up on screen, and this way you can actually have a little bit of a run through with me and I can sort of display what I mean by my predictions for the Six Nations. So let's check out what the bookies have to say. So what I've done is I've gone away, I've had a bit of an accumulation from different betting sites on their odds and who they think is going to win the Six Nations. So we'll put them on screen for you guys. This is not necessarily every betting site. This is sort of the middle ground of all the betting sites put together. So this is about the average amounts of odds. And as we can see, starting off at the top left here, France absolutely probably stand out there as favourites on 11-8. So basically, it's sort of 1-1, a little bit outside of 1-1. Definitely the favourites going in here, followed quite closely by England on 5-2. So, you know, there's a 2 and a bit to 1 there. Ireland in third on 7-2, which is actually quite surprising considering the year Ireland had last year. You know, 3-1, just over 3-1. Coming in that third place, it does surprise me. I know there's difference between the home and away games. That obviously factors in a lot in these sorts of tournaments. So maybe fair enough, but I was quite surprised by that stat actually. Wales coming in at 8-1, last year's champions, going at fourth favourites. Scotland at 12-1, who had their best Six Nations ever last year. And finally Italy, of course, unfortunately there, on 1,000-1. Did see a couple of places had them up at 750-1, but more places have them at 1,000-1. So, don't know about you guys, there's definitely a couple of standouts there to me. A couple of people might be surprised to see Wales in fourth, given that they won last year, but I think it's fair to say last year they didn't have the best year in general, though they had a good Six Nations, much better than I expected them to anyway. But Ireland, for me there, probably the biggest surprise. I wouldn't have had them in third, especially. So, looking forwards, let's have a look at the actual games and go through some predictions. Now, of course, this is for a bunch of fun, and I've no doubt when we go back and look at these in the future, they will all be almost entirely wrong. So let's start off with week 1. So here we go, we've got the 3 games on week 1. So starting off with Ireland versus Wales. Now, for me personally, even though I am a Wales fan, I do try and be as objective as possible when I go into doing these sorts of videos. Now, Wales for me did not have the best year last year. I was very surprised they came away with that Six Nations win. I thought they had quite a poor summer tour, and they had a better autumn tour than I expected them to. Although they actually got all the games correct in what I actually thought they were going to win. But going into the Six Nations, I've no doubt there's still going to be quite a few injuries. The injury list in Wales is certainly a little bit longer than most other teams, I would imagine, by now, especially for starting players. I've no doubt there'll probably be a starting 15 in there, but as a starting 23, you might see a couple of new boys coming on in terms of subs, or a couple of lesser capped players. So very difficult first game. Ireland having a really good year last year, especially finishing it off, of course, with some nice wins over New Zealand and Argentina. Not only that, going into this game with the home advantage. Unfortunately, as a Wales fan, going to be a difficult game for me to watch. I'm going to predict a Ireland win. And I also think there's going to be a bonus point here. I can see Ireland looking to get off with a bit of a storming start, so I'm going to give a bonus point as well to Ireland. On to game 2, Scotland versus England. Now, this was a bit of a surprise last year. I called England as heavy favourites last year to win this one, and of course we saw Scotland just come out of the blocks last year and beat England in Twickenham. Not what I was expecting at all. This year going into it, very big call here. I've been really sort of changing a lot what I thought about this one. I'm going to go for a Scotland win. Now, I imagine England will go in as heavy favourites for this one, especially with their win they had over South Africa. But I think the Scotland team's looking good. I think being able to play this game at home as well in Murrayfield with full crowds. England are still changing their team quite a lot from their Six Nations in the past. So I think there could be the opportunity for Scotland just to gel together, get off to a good start again, like they did last year. So I'm going to go for a Scotland win. Not going to go for a bonus point. I'm not sure whether they'll get 4 tries in there. And I think I'm also going to call a losing bonus point for England. I think they might be able to stay within that 7 points. On to game 3, France versus Italy. A little bit of an easier one to call. France at home as well. I'm just going to go straight out and say this one. This is going to be a France win with a bonus point. That win they had against New Zealand looked very, very good. And unfortunately, Italy just aren't on the board. You'll probably hear this a lot throughout the rest of these predictions, but Italy not doing very well on my predictions that I have written down here. So unfortunately for Italy, I think it's going to be a France win there with a bonus point. On to week 2 then. A couple of really tough games here. This actual week might determine where a lot of actual teams come in the overall tournament. Starting off with Wales versus Scotland. Wow, what a tough one. Wales at home versus Scotland. I would say Scotland have been more impressive to me than Wales were towards the end of last year. I've really changed my thoughts about this a lot. I went in and just picked Wales to win, but I thought it'd be a close game, and then I've just thought more and more about it, especially with Wales having to play Ireland in the round previously. That's going to be a big game. That's going to take a lot of pressure onto a lot of players there. Scotland against England, also a big game for them, so I'm not sure how detrimental either of those games are going to be leading into this game. I'm going to make a call that's going to hurt to say as a Wales fan, but I'm going to actually pick Scotland to win here. Even though it's Wales at home, and I'm sure the Principality will be booing for this one, I'm going to go out on a whim and say that Scotland are going to win this one, not with a bonus point, and I'm also going to say Wales to have a losing bonus point for this one. Second game of week 2, France versus Ireland. Now, for me, is probably the game of the tournament. When I was going through these, I really believe it's probably going to be between France and Ireland to win this. I'm going against the bookies a little bit there. I do think Ireland's team is looking very, very impressive. The only thing potentially letting them down is how many games they're playing away from home. So going into this one, France versus Ireland, this one for me is like really 50-50. I think France at home is a superb advantage. We saw what that meant in that New Zealand game to France being able to play at home. I just think the Ireland team's got such good depth. France are playing Italy the week previously. They're not going to have the toughest game necessary to get back into this tournament. I think France are going in with fresh legs. I just think Ireland have got the depth. I don't know. I'm going to lean. I think a lot of people here will call France to win. So I'm going to mix it up a bit. I'm going to predict Ireland to win. Not with a bonus point, just to win, and France to have a losing bonus point. And then finally, game 3 of week 2, England versus Italy. And even though Italy get to play at home, I just don't know if Italy are going to be able to hold up against this England attack. England are going to be trying a lot of new things this year, especially with some of the new players they'll probably be having coming in. We saw last year how many of the new boys entering the field are just top quality coming in from England. I've no doubt they'll want to get a chance to run around on the field as well. So for me, I can see this one being a very aggressive game. I can see this one maybe being a bit of a try-fest. I'm going to lean towards England for this one. I'm going to say England to win with a bonus point. I don't believe Italy will get 4 tries, so I won't give them a bonus point, and I don't think they'll get a losing bonus point either, so I'll just stick for now with England to win with a bonus point. On to week 3, Scotland versus France at Murrayfield. This one could be a really exciting game. Of course, last year, Scotland managing to beat France, I would say against the odds quite heavily. I really thought France were going to win that game. Scotland just absolutely determined through everything at the game and managing to come away with a win in that one. I think they've been very impressive last year. Hopefully they keep that form on the go. I think that the fact that I've given Ireland to beat France in the last round, I think France would then, if that did happen, France would need to bounce back very hard, very quickly. So even though it's at Scotland, I'm going to lean towards France. I'm going to say France to win. And if they had lost that game against Ireland, I think they'd know they'd have to go for the bonus points. So I'm going to say France to win with a bonus point. I don't know. I don't know if Scotland will get a bonus point there. No, I'm going to stick with just that. France to win with a bonus point. Game 2 of week 3, England versus Wales, the dreaded game every year for someone like me, especially with England in Twickenham and having a good end to the year for them. Wales, coming into this one, this could be a very long day for me as a watcher. I think England tend to play better in Twickenham. We got to see them beat South Africa towards the end of last year as well. I think their team is going to slowly be able to get together. They've got some nice games to warm up to as well with this one. You know, if Scotland will be a good testing match, then I think Italy will be a good chance for them to let some of their lesser cap players have a good run around, all together culminating in a very big team to go in against this Wales team. And I think Wales have probably got the harder first 2 games in the likes of playing Ireland and Scotland. No doubt injuries could go in there, and I'm not sure the depth of the Wales squad is going to be able to hold out for this one. Unfortunately, England at home as well, always a tough game. It pains me to say it, but I think I'm going to be leaning here. I'm going to lean towards an England win with a bonus point. And for the final game of week 3, Ireland versus Italy. Unfortunately, this is just going to fall under the same category for me. This is going to be an Ireland win with a bonus point. This is Ireland. With some big games before it, fair play, but I think they've got a real depth in squad. I would say arguably, I'm saying that France and Ireland both have a really good depth of squad, so I don't think Ireland will be missing too many key players, and if they do, they can reinforce it well, and they're playing at home. I'm going to go for an Ireland win with a bonus point. On to week 4, Wales versus France. I get to actually attend this game as well. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully, maybe. It could be a very long day again. Wales versus France. Again, I think I'm going to look probably maybe a little bit further back here. I think Wales will look to try and just throw everything at this game. This will probably be their real big tester in terms of their home game. So I think they'll go for this one quite hard. But I think the France defence, especially with Sean Edwards working the France defence. I don't think he'll be too impressed with some of the French games last year in terms of their defence. I'm sure that'll be wanting to get sorted out a little bit now. I think he might be able to call whether Wales will be able to get through that defence or not. France, I think, will come into this again, all guns blazing, just based on the fact that, if they've lost that game to Ireland, if my predictions were correct, they would need to be going hard. I'm going to call a France win here. But I'm not going to call a bonus point. I'm not sure if they'll get 4 tries. I think they might try and stick out more for just a win here. Maybe there'll be a lot more penalties going in with this game. I'm going to call France to win without a bonus point. I couldn't think what the normal term was going to be there. Maybe Wales would get a losing bonus point here. But I'm gonna refrain from saying it. I think maybe sort of France to win by 10 or something is maybe what I'll call for that one. Game 2, Scotland versus Italy at Rome. It's, arguably every year the game Italy target the most in terms of likelihood to win. However, Scotland have improved so much over the last 18 months, 2 years, that Scotland seem to me to be a little bit out of reach now for Italy. So I'm going to go down the same route. I'm sorry, this is going to get awfully boring for some of the Italy games. I'm going to call a Scotland win. And I'm also going to call a Scotland bonus point. I think they'll go for this one. No point just taking those 3 points, especially against some of the other teams that I don't think they'll get bonus points against. Absolutely worth going for this one, and I think Scotland will get the bonus points in this game. And then the final game of week 4, England versus Ireland. A really, really big game here. This was a good game last year, actually. I really enjoyed this one. England will have certainly had the tougher game, I would say, going into this one. England will have just played Wales, also at home, so I've gone for a win there, but Ireland have just come back from playing Italy, so I don't think Ireland will feel too bad about that game. I think they'll probably have a full team going into this one. One benefit I see here is maybe the fact that England are playing both games at home, so none of this jet lag stuff of having to fly to different places and stuff, that'll be a real bonus for them. But I'm still just going to be leaning towards that depth in the Ireland squad. I wouldn't be surprised if Ireland play a bit of a B team to play Italy. And if they do, a lot of the big boys for this Ireland team will be absolutely up for this game. The home field advantage for England, certainly a positive. So you've got to take that into consideration as well. For me here, I'm going to call an Ireland win, but no bonus point. I could see this game coming down to an awful lot of kicking, more so than tries. So I'm going to say Ireland to win, but England to come away with a losing bonus point here. I think the Ireland defences look very, very good, I guess, especially against very attacking teams. We saw it against New Zealand, how much they absolutely went for that game. England have certainly moved more towards that style now of just going for all-out attack and trying to make room themselves. I think the Irish defence worked very well against New Zealand. I think England will play a very similar style. So I'm going to go for an Ireland win, England losing bonus point. And finally, week 5, Super Saturday, probably one of my favourite days of the year in terms of actually getting to sit down and just watch some international rugby. Starting off with game 1, Wales versus Italy. I mean, what a way to start off my Super Saturday. Wales tend to have just a very good track record against Italy, no matter what, really. So I'm going to say Wales to beat Italy with a bonus point for this one again. Unfortunately, Italy are going to fall short again this year, I would say. They've certainly got a few more attacking threats than they've had in previous years, but I just think a lot of teams just seem to be a little bit of a stage higher than them, especially when you go back and look at the Italy versus Uruguay game. That to me just sort of showed how many weaknesses are still in this Italy team, which some of these tier 1 teams can exploit. So for me, Wales at home, start of Super Saturday, Wales win with a bonus point. Game 2, Ireland versus Scotland. This was a really good game last year. I did a review of this game, and I think Ireland just seemed to have the Scotland number absolutely up last year. Tactical game, but they absolutely seem to outplay them in the right areas. Beating Scotland in terms of the breakdown really hinders their speed of ball coming out, which is such a negative for them, but then also allows you to have more turnover threats. Ireland with so many turnover threats. Scotland with a few less jacklers involved, so they certainly seem to be better in terms of the breakdown, and those line-out jumpers can really kill Scotland against Ireland. So for me here, Ireland at home as well. I'm going to lean towards Ireland for this one. I'm also going to say a bonus point. Am I going to say a bonus? Yes, I am. I'm going to say a bonus point for Ireland. I'm not going to say a losing bonus point for Scotland. I can see them getting some points on the board, but I think as a nice little flourish here, Ireland would want to finish strong. So I would maybe say Ireland to win sort of 10 to 15 points. So I'm going to go with Ireland with a bonus point. And for the final game of the Six Nations, France versus England. In France, you know, that's a big bonus for them. England would no doubt probably wanted to have this one in Twickenham because I think France are currently at a very high level of rugby. I think England would love the chance to be able to play France in Twickenham. But they are going to be playing away in France, so that certainly gives the advantage more towards France, I would say. I think this would be a game that England would love to just throw everything at. I wouldn't be surprised if they just go for some crazy, outrageous rules here. It's going to be full attacking rugby. Now, France, again, like I said earlier on, that I think the French defence towards the end of last year wasn't necessarily the best. It's definitely been a bit more scruffy than it needed to be. Sometimes the France team plays very well in very loose ball situations, as we saw against that New Zealand team. But I feel like sometimes that defence can let them down. So I wouldn't be surprised to see England get a couple of points in here against France. But again, that discipline, France, some of those players in terms of kicking, especially just getting over the board, just ticking away. I don't know if I see either team coming with a bonus point here. I don't know if I see 4 tries. I see both teams just sort of really wanting to win this game rather than it being a run-over sort of game. So I'm going to call a France win, but not with a bonus point. And I don't think England will get the bonus points in terms of tries. Will they get the losing bonus point? Maybe. Maybe they will. No, I'm going to say no. I'll just say for now, France to win that game. As standard, no bonus points across the board. But I could absolutely see a couple of people potentially favouring England going into that one as well. But there we have it, guys. That is all of my predictions for the Six Nations 2022. So I thought for a bit of fun, we'll just have a look at what I think, apparently given those results, is going to be what the table will look like. So here we go. You guys can check it out on screen now. As you can see there, Ireland all the way at the top. I've actually called an Ireland Grand Slam, which I didn't notice till just now. I have actually called for an Ireland Grand Slam. Will that happen? Probably unlikely. The odds for an Ireland Grand Slam currently 8 to 1. So I've no doubt that might not happen, but that's why I love doing these videos. They're all a bit of fun. Sometimes it's fun to maybe pick the underdog teams on occasion. I think the Ireland-France game will be one of the biggest games in the Six Nations. To me, whoever wins that game should be winning the Six Nations, but whether it means a Grand Slam or not really sure. So Ireland up there on 5 wins, on 26 points. That, of course, is the 3 bonus points I decided, but also they get a +3 bonus points for getting a Grand Slam. So that's why it's 26. I know a couple of people last year, when I called that, I said that France were going to win, people got quite annoyed that some of the point systems weren't what they thought it was. You do get bonus points for a Grand Slam. Second place, I got France with 4 wins, 1 loss, 3 bonus points on 19 points. Scotland in third. That'd be a good finish for them as well if they managed to get there. That was the same as last year, I think. Or did Scotland come fourth last year? I can't think off the top of my head. Scotland with 3 wins, 2 losses, and the 1 bonus point that I called in there puts them at 13. England in fourth with 2 wins, 3 losses. I mean, maybe I've been a bit harsh here on England. I'm certain a lot of the English subscribers will hopefully be thinking they'll probably do a little bit better than that. 4 bonus points though, so making sure they get those extra points ticking over. We know how much England love to try and keep close scoreboards if possible, especially with scoring tries, so they'll finish on 12 points in my opinion. And Wales, unfortunately, down in 5th. I think I had Wales to finish like 4th last year and they came first, so what do I know? Wales on 1 win, unfortunately, against Italy. 4 losses and 2 bonus points for a couple of close games, and their finishes them on 6th. And exactly how it was last year, Italy on 0, 6 losses and 0 bonus points, finishing it off with a total of 0 points. I would like to be wrong about Italy, but unfortunately I don't think I will be. But of course, guys, this prediction video is just for a bit of fun. Some people last year did take it really seriously. It's absolutely hypothetical, and we don't even know what the teams are yet. They actually might have the teams out by the time this video gets put up, but it's probably going to take me a little while just to edit all this video together. But I am interested to know what you guys think, so make sure you drop it down in the comments. Your predictions doesn't necessarily have to be every game, but maybe just put down what order you think the teams will finish in, because I actually quite like looking through what other people think, and I like checking out the comments after the actual tournament is over, just to go back and see who got closest. Like it was last year, I think I called like a France, then England, then Ireland in the teams, and I was off by miles, and Wales won, and I had a really nice time watching that Six Nations, even with some really close games. So I'm sure I'll probably be wrong about most of these as well. But if you've enjoyed this one today, guys, make sure you do drop it a like, and of course we will be following all of the Six Nations as it goes on, including the preview videos, some of the roundup videos, the team of the weeks, and we've also got the Fantasy League on the go for anyone who hasn't seen that video. Make sure you get involved, jump in with the Fantasy League, and that way you can get yourself actually featured on the channel as well in those team of the week videos. But I hope you've all enjoyed today, guys. I will see you all next time. Bye bye.